According to a 2022 U.S. Census Bureau study, the number of U.S. children living with two parents has dropped since 1968, while the percentage living only with their mother has doubled. In 1968, 85% of children under 18 lived with two parents. By 2020, 70% did. At a time of bullying, depression, and anxiety, and teen suicide, I felt it was a good time to look at children in America and how the family is changing very rapidly. My new video entitled U.S. Children Living Only with Their Mothers has doubled in 50 years. The report found that children living with a mother only is the second most common U.S. living arrangement, a number that has doubled since 1968. Trends like this are important because children's living arrangements can have implications on children's outcomes, like academic achievements, mental health, and anger and aggression. Living with two parents has historically been the nation's most common children's living arrangement. In 1968, roughly 60 million U.S. children, 85% under 18, lived with two parents. But this number dipped between 1968 and 2020. Both the percentage and overall number of children living with two parents declined. By 2020, while still the living arrangement most common for children, the number of children living with two parents had slipped to 51.3 million, or 70%. Children living with a mother only is the second most common U.S. living arrangement. The number the Census Bureau says has doubled since 1968. About 7.6 million children, or 11%, lived with their mother only in 1968. This compared to 15.3 million, or 21%, in 2020. The number of children living with their father only, although still small, more than quadrupled from 0.8 million, 1%, to 3.3 million, 4.5%, between 1968 and 2020. Not surprisingly, living with no parent but with grandparents or other relatives is the least common living arrangement for children. In 1968, approximately 2 million children, 3%, lived with no parent. By 2020, that estimate rose approximately 3 million, 4%. The census study noted that living with two married parents was the most common living arrangement for children of all race and origin groups other than black children. Fewer than 2/5 of black children were living with two married parents in 2020. These children were most likely to live with their mothers only. Asian children were the most likely to live with two married parents, followed by white, non-Hispanic children, and Hispanic children. Other highlights include Hispanic children were the most likely, 6%, to live with two unmarried parents. Asian children were the least likely to live with two unmarried parents at 3%. And living with no parent was most likely for black children, followed by Hispanics, 4%, white non-Hispanic at 3%, and Asian children at 1%. For years, there has been a decline in marriage rates with more U.S. children living with a single parent, 30% currently. A Pew Research Center study of 130 countries and territories shows that the U.S. has the world's highest rate of children living in single-parent households. The study also analyzed how people's living arrangements differ by religion. Pew found that U.S. children from Christian and religiously unaffiliated families are about equally likely to live in single-parent homes. In comparison, 3% of children in China, 4% in Nigeria, and 5% of children in India live in single-parent households. What all these numbers on children in the U.S. means, no one really knows for sure at this point. Will problems grow even worse if the single-parent homes increase more? Or can children, families, and society adapt by being creative and supportive to the needs of children? One final similar study has occurred in Britain, and their numbers are even more concerning. The Marriage Foundation conducted a study suggesting that nearly half of children in Britain are no longer living with both their biological parents by the time they reach 14 years of age. And that's 46% of all children. That represents 70% the result of breakups from non-married couples, while 30% were from families of married couples. This is H.A. Graves.